The Kentucky Road to the Kentucky Oaks has two stops. The first of those is the Bourbonette Oaks on Jeff Ruby Stakes Day at Turfway. Talk about the Ashland next week at Keeneland, but the Bourbonette Oaks, a key race on the wagering program Saturday, part of the mandatory payout pick six, part of the all stakes pick five and pick four. And of course, those 100 Kentucky Oaks points means a berth in the run for the Lilies on April 30th. And Scott, my first impression of this race is a lot of speed.
Tons of early zip, my friend Ed DeRosa. I totally agree with that. You've got the inside two, speeding and roll up more money. You've got the Cincinnati Trophy winner, wait for Nairobi. Spritz, probably not fast enough, but I mean, California Lily, almost as fast as they come into Vanishing. There's very little chance that there's not a lively pace in the Bourbonette Oaks. I agree.
And the mile configuration at Turfway, you get that shorter run to the turn, obviously, than longer two-turn races. So could help speed if you get a really controlling advantage. Tough to see how that happens with this group, though. And I did go to a horse who figures to come from off the pace, and Olivia of the Desert. She got that key triple-digit late pace rating last out, which I like. That was off a 2.5-month layoff. Now she shows up here for her synthetic debut. Don't necessarily love Bernardini on the synthetic, but it is a classic pedigree. Unbridled Song on the bottom, and figure this one should be running late into all that speed. And 8-1 I like as well.
Well, we'll see if we get 8-1 because it is a we, not you thing. I landed on her for the same reasons, mainly the trip that I expect her to get. I know Brian Hernandez Jr. will save ground throughout. You bring up the question about the surface switch. That is a major question, especially because she's 0 for 2 on the turf, although she did run third in the juvenile fillies at Kentucky Downs. So sometimes that turf form can translate over to the Tapeta. But this horse just keeps trying, and I've tried to beat her a couple times, especially on November 28th when she was 5-1 in an optional claimer at Churchill. Didn't like her at all that day. Got a real good trip under Brian, but took advantage of it and kept coming. Same thing happened in Remington in the stakes race there. She looked absolutely stone beat. So if she takes to the all-weather surface, I think she's going to be a major player at a pretty good price.
Yeah, I agree. Adventuring's a 3-1 morning line favorite, and we'll see who actually ends up being the favorite. I mean, maybe people just kind of default to Brad and you start Giroux up as well, so we know they attract money. But I just don't know that she's fast enough to warrant being the favorite against this group.
Interestingly enough, she's tried to get on the turf 3 times at fairgrounds. All 3 washed off. You can get it. I mean, this horse absolutely bred to race on the turf. Pioneer of the Nile out of a hard spun mare, Questing. Never was the favorite in any of those races, which I found interesting. And Brad horses at fairgrounds, maiden hyped up horses usually are favored on debut or in at least 1 or 2 of those starts. Granted, Will Secret was one of the horses she faced, and she's faced some pretty solid fields down there, but I don't know about being the favorite. I got to say, I was wowed by California Lily's effort on March 12th, stretching out for the first time. This horse underwhelmed in the races that weren't on the synthetic in her career, but both of the synthetic efforts have been eye-popping, and you know, she might be the fastest of the fast, and I don't know if she can speed burn this field, but I don't know if I want to be a horse that's chasing her either.
Yeah, sometimes when there's a lot of speed, sometimes the horse who's fastest ends up getting the job done because they're the one running away from everyone else that's backing through it. Bejarano aboard last time. He lands aboard Candace O, who at 5-1, maybe a little light, but figure in the mix as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to overanalyze that. I was thinking maybe Bejarano took the call on that horse, and then California Lily was an late entry because she just ran that race on March 12th, and Cassie probably thought she ran so good he had to give her another chance over the synthetic before the meet was over. So I didn't want to read too much into it, but I definitely noticed the Bejarano switch as well.
Yeah, that was an impressive performance. It's interesting to note, though, Rafael Bejarano aboard that day for Cassie, but in the Bourbonette Oaks, he's aboard Candace O for Grand Motion. Certainly a horse I see in with the chance. 5-1, maybe a little light for me, though.
Interesting you note that. I noticed the same thing about Bejarano not riding back on California Lily, who won the optional claiming race so impressively. I thought maybe Candace O had been planning for this race all along. Motion lined up Bejarano, and then Mark Cassie made a last-second audible with California Lily after that impressive win on March 12th. That was my line of thinking. Didn't want to overanalyze it, but it's definitely worth noting that Motion has gotten Bejarano. I wouldn't hold it against California Lily, though.
Yeah, I agree. Well, regardless, you and I, a lot of agreement on how this race might shape out. A lot of speed, You and I looking for Olivia of the Desert to mow him down on the way to the Kentucky Oaks. It's the Bourbonette Oaks Saturday at Turfway Park.